Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. Hi, and welcome to Crafts by Two. I'm Ken, and this is Cricket. Unfortunately, George is still sick. He got slammed by a summer bug, and things are not going well. So, hoping George gets well soon. So, in the meantime, my friend Cricket is going to sit in for George. So, we got the same colors. It's all good. I wanted to use the drawing feature more on the Explore, so I came up with these kind of florets. So just kind of giving a hand drawn look for some projects. So these are original shapes that I just made in Inkscape, and I'm going to show you how you can do rosettes like these yourself. It's really simple, and that way you have totally unique images for your own projects. But I know everybody's not comfortable with Inkscape, so I'm going to upload to our website a collection of 20 different rosettes for you to play with. Some are very dense, some are not as dense with the lines, and some go to the right and some go to the left. So you'll have a lot of different options to play around with. So you'll be able to try out these techniques for yourself. So first I'm going to show you how to do it in Inkscape. Really quick, really simple, and I'll have a reference sheet on our website, so look in the description for more information. Then I go over to Design Space and just make these two cards. Here we are in Inkscape. It is really simple to make your own kind of floral designs. Inkscape has a spiral tool, so you just come over and click on it, and it draws from the center, so click in the center and drag out. You can position your tail where you want it to be, but of course, in Design Space, you'll be able to rotate this. While you have your spiral selected, you're able to adjust a few things up top. There's turns, divergence, and then the inner radius. So turns are the number of revolutions. So I wanted a relatively tight one, but not too many spirals. So 10 came out pretty well. But you can adjust this up and down, and it only does like a tenth of a step. But you can always just type in a number, so if you want a lot of spirals, you could do 20, or if you just want a few, do 5, and it updates live. I'm going to leave it at 10 for now. Then with divergence, the tooltip tells us how much denser or sparser are outer revolutions. So the inner revolutions compared to the outer revolutions. To give us that look of a flower, I did 2 because it was kind of more close in the center and then wider as you got out, kind of simulating that flower spiral. And again, you can adjust this with the arrows or type in a number. If you're ever unsure about your settings and you just want to kind of clean the slate, the brush will reset you back to the defaults. Once you have your spiral looking how you want it to look for your flower, one touch I want to give it is a little more of that hand-drawn look. To do that, I'm going to switch to the pointer tool to make sure that my item is selected, and then go to Path, Object to Path. And this converts it from a spiral object to actually a path made up of nodes and curves and so on. We don't have to get into it in this case, but just understand that you have to make it a path for this next technique. Now you're going to come up to Extensions while your item is still selected, and you're going to say Modify Path, and then Jitter Nodes. This brings up a dialog box where you can kind of play with the nodes, and it kind of randomly shifts things around, which makes it look more like a person drew it instead of a machine. One thing on this dialog is you can check a live preview box, and when you do, that switches to a preview of your settings. You can adjust the displacement in the X range and the Y range. So if you wanted something to move a lot up and down, you might move the Y range to give it even more randomization. And if you didn't want it to move to the left and right a lot, you would adjust the X range down. But you don't have to understand all that. You can just play around with the numbers until you get something that looks the way you want it to. There's also shifting the nodes, which will move the dots, the nodes that make up this shape, around. Shifting the node handles will also randomize the curves. So moving the nodes around is moving kind of this point on the curve, and then shifting the node handles is adjusting the angle of that curve. So if I turn off shift node handles, everything keeps kind of more of a spirally look, a more of a curved look, but it still moves the nodes around, which helps give it a little bit more of that randomization. And normal distribution is just a way of randomizing numbers. Again, you don't have to worry about that. So with live preview on, you can adjust the settings until you get something that you like aesthetically. And you'll notice that the center gets very jumbled up and a cluster of lines gets made there in the center. This could be a cool effect for drawing with a pen because you're going to have much denser color there. If you're using a thicker pen, when you draw this on your Cricut Explore, it's really going to just be kind of a patch of color. But if you don't want that, I'll show you once we're done here how you can clean up that center area if you don't like that cluster of lines. So keep playing with the settings, and it is random, so even if you just bump it up and bump it back down, you're not going to get exactly the same shape you had before. So even just toggling back and forth like I'm doing between a 0.1 difference gives me a different effect each time. So once you've found a kind of style and approach you like, you can just click apply. Now you can close that out and you're done. But let me show you how to clear up this cluster of lines in the center. Switching over to the node tool and clicking on the shape, I can see all the little nodes that make up the center here. You can kind of lasso those. Whoops, grabbed one of the lines. Let me zoom in. And I'm zooming in using the plus key on the keyboard. Now I can lasso just some of those lines, some of the nodes actually, and delete them. Now if I zoom back out, that got rid of that cluster of lines in the center. Now I'm ready to save this. One thing I want to point out is I made this as kind of a relatively large shape, but when you take this into Design Space, you'll be able to adjust the size and play around with them. You can make some big, some small, as you're laying things out in Design Space. To save this as an SVG, I'm going up to the File menu and doing Save. And I'm going to call this Rose 1. And on the bottom, I'm saying I want this to be a plain SVG. And I'm saving it to my desktop so I know where to find it. And save. So we could even repeat this process just to give us some different choices. So dragging that out. And maybe I want one that's not quite as many spirals. So just using the spiral tool again, while I still have it selected, I get those options back. So now I'm going to just take this down a couple of turns to 7. And then path, object to path, extensions, modify path, jitter nodes, turning on the live preview, and then giving it just a few tweaks. I think that one works out, so apply. going to get rid of that center again. So selecting it, lassoing those center nodes, and delete. And because I already saved this as Rose 1, I actually did File and then Save As, so I can give this a different name. So this is Rose 2. And switching it to a plain SVG and save. So we're going to give you a pack of flowers to play with. So you'll be able to download those from our website using the link in the description on the video. I just wanted to show you how easy it is for you to make your own floral pieces in Inkscape. I've already imported 5 of the lighter rosettes into my design. And I went ahead and I'm going to make this into simply folding a 8.5 by 11 in half. So I got a rectangle from Georgian Basic Shapes and I made it 8 by 5. And the reason I'm doing it this way is to give me a guide for my placement, but also I kind of want it to cut some of the flowers off the way I'm going to arrange them. So this will help with that. I also went ahead and put a little sentiment of get well soon. I haven't attached it yet because I'm not sure on the placement. So here are the rosettes. Oops. And I need to send this to the background. So I brought in 5 shapes, just kind of mixing up the left and the right ones just so I had some spinning in different directions. And I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a bouquet in the corner, but like I said, going off the page. So first you need to select one of the rosettes, make sure you switch it over to right on the layers. And I'm going to use the wine color to represent my wine pen. And I think I'll use the pink crystal to represent my red pen, just so I have an idea of what's what. And I'm just going to arrange them a bit and use the handle to rotate so everything's not quite at the same angle. So again, switching it to right. This one I think will be the red. Actually, I want to mix that up. And they can overlap a little. They don't all have to be the same size. And I think I just need a few more, so I'm just going to duplicate some of these. So selecting it, coming to the layers panel and duplicate. But this one I want to be a different color. I think that looks pretty good for what I want. Maybe I'll fill out the rest a little. There, I think that's pretty good. So I just gave my sentiment a little tilt there to fill things in. And now I'm going to select all and then attach. So this way everything's going to be written and then it's also going to be cut out of that rectangle shape. So it's all going to be on one piece. And I've already got my paper. So it wants the wine pen first. Now it wants the next pen. And it's saying pink, but I was just using that to represent the red pen. So that was a quick, simple card, just using some pens and one cut. So here's the first card. Kinda didn't come out quite as well as I wanted it to, but it's a very simple card, one cut, and the rest is drawn. But you can see the technique, and some other ideas you might have are playing around with different shapes, not just the rosettes like I did here. So you could use all the shapes available to you with your Cricut subscription and just draw them instead. So you could do some pretty interesting designs and patterns just using squares and circles. Another thing I want to try sometime in the future is possibly using an embossing pen with this and some embossing powder to really bring out the dimension. Another approach you can take is using multiple pens with the same shapes and kind of layering them together. I have that Cricut wine pen, and it's kind of a fine point one. And I also have an American Crafts metallic marker that's a very similar wine color that's a little bit thicker. And playing around, I found that it looks really cool, especially with similar colors like that, if you kind of layer them together and then just offset them a little. And for this one, I'm just going to fill the sheet, kind of using the same approach of going off the edges a little. I've laid out a rectangle again from George and Basic Shapes, and I'm just going to fill that in with shapes. So I'm going to let the wine represent the Cricut wine pen again, and then I'm going to use the pink crystal in this case to represent the metallic marker from American Crafts. And I want to duplicate the same shape, kind of have them close together like that, so there's just a little bit difference. And this one I want to do slightly different color. So I'm going to lay out some larger ones and then fill in the gaps with some smaller ones. Oops, duplicated the wrong one. Don't want that one yet. Oops, didn't want to duplicate it. I want to change its color. Now that I've got that work done, I can just come over to the layers here and select everything but my rectangle and just duplicate that again. So it moved some things off a little. And I just kind of want to mix things up a little more so everything's not in the same places. Now just duplicate a few. And we're going to resize these just to fill up some of these holes. think that fills in everything pretty good. Now I'm just going to select all and attach again. And click go. For this one, I've just decided to use a sentiment from our subscription. So I did a search on Get Well, and I like this one because it kind of has a bit of a hand-drawn look to it as well. So I've sized this, and I'm just going to cut it out and get it ready to go on the card. And here's that second card. I think this one came out a little bit better than the first one. The layering with the two designs came out well. I used the sentiment to cover up that mistake where you can still see at the bottom a little there where it just overwrote too closely. But for a quick card, I think it came out really well. And this sentiment still has that nice kind of handcrafted look to it. So I liked how this one turned out probably better than the first one. But that's how you learn, trying things out. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Also, you can subscribe using our icon in the corner. Just click it, and that way you won't miss out on our future projects. So until next Tuesday, or probably sooner, thanks for watching. Bye. Bye. Okay, Cricket, let's go give George a get well soon card.